Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alessio Beverina. I'm the founding partner of Panakes Partners, which is a VC dedicated to life science based in Milan, out of Italy, but investing all over Europe. I'm here to manage a panel. It's like a joke about Europeans, right? So we have the Italian, the French, the Belgian, and the Germans trying to make things happening in the venture capital community in the medtech area. So, Anke, the word is yours. Tell us who you are and who do you work for.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alessio. Yes, and indeed, that's a good combination we are having here. So my name is Anke. I work for Grunderfonds in Germany. We are the seed investor in Germany. So what am I doing on a panel about European capital? Well, of course, our companies, they have to go to Alessio. They have to go to Sylvain and Filip because they want to grow. And eventually, they even have to go to the US. So we want to work. And I think we can say we work successfully with all the other funds and investors.
Thanks a lot. Sylvain. Half French, half Spanish, every time they say so.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Almost.
Almost. So Sylvain Sachot, I'm a partner at Asabys Partners. We are a venture capital group based here in Barcelona and investing in healthcare in general, between biopharma and health tech, being understood health tech as a mix of medtech, diagnostics, and digital health. We've been acting since 2018, and we are right now investing out of our second fund, Asabys Investment 2, which is the name of the fund. We invest in Spain, but also in the rest of Europe. We do look for innovation across the major countries in Europe. We do see differences between European countries and cultures. So happy to be here, and thank you, LSI, for the invite to speak.
Filip.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I'm indeed from Belgium. Capricorn Partners is a house of funds, exists for 30 years, but health tech has always been a major focus of Capricorn Partners. We have a fund for the moment investing in seed and Series A, very much focused on big data analytics in digital healthcare. And we're also preparing to launch a next fund, broader in health tech, combining also medtech and digital health, again, sort of focused on Series A, Series B. We're also investing across Europe. Of course, we like to invest close by home, sort of the Benelux area. The German-speaking countries are areas that we are very familiar with and that we like investing in, but we get a lot of deal flow from across Europe and very open to invest in this as well. So very curious about the debate and the differences amongst countries, Alessio.
So to start with, if you look at United States, this is for, at least from outside, it's a unique country, right? Even if there are 50, 51, I don't remember the number, 50, right? The number of countries, but it's unique. You have one regulatory body, you have insurance, etc., reimbursement, etc., and we have a lot of VC all over the place. If you're an entrepreneur, like many of you are, and you look at Europe, Europe is not exactly the same thing, right? You have different countries, different legislation, different reimbursement, different everything. And if you look also at the VC community, you have VC based in Spain, VC based in France, and you out of Germany, Spain, Italy, France, or whatsoever, you need to search for the best opportunity. And not all the VC, not all the country, not all the technology works perfectly well on each different country for each different VC. So let's try to figure out what's difference are in all this space on all these particular points, country by country, and what can be done. So first of all, if you high level, if you look at the financing, lots of entrepreneurs are there. So what can you say about financing? Is Europe a unique country, or you may say different things? Anke?
I would say in the early phase, typically a startup would stay in their country. First investors would typically come from the region even. Does not have to be the case, but very often is the case. Because at the early stages, there's a lot of interaction. But as I indicated before a bit, I strongly believe that in anything health tech, you have to think beyond your country. So you really early on have to reach out towards Europe. And looking again at the German situation, we do not have so many large VCs. So we reach out to all the other countries and see that the innovations get financed.
Okay, but how difficult is to go outside? You know, when a company from Italy with a terrible accent come to see the Nordics, could be Spanish as well, don't worry. So what are the major issues that are when talking to you guys at the later stage after the regional or the country-based VC?
I mean, first, I would like to if I may, I would like to say on what was just said. Because, so first, it's fairly typical for European startups to be first financed locally. So you get a local VC that will then help you reaching out other investors. And then you get, so from local, say Spanish or Italian, you go to pan-European, and from there you get to the US. The first step, I guess, is generally that one, except when you are speaking about a management team that has already done it, and that, you know, so this is a different case. But say for a first-time CEO, first-time management, very early stage company, preclinical, designing something new, and you have to count with local investors. How do you reach them? Network with VC or investment bank, professional services, or congresses like this one. I guess this is a great way to reach out to different investors. This is done for that, and yeah, this is a great way to showcase. One of the things to be understood by entrepreneurs, and maybe there are some here, is that it's also fairly typical for European VCs to have a local commitment to invest within a country. This is our case at Asabys, but I'm sure it's the case for everybody. We have the Europe Investment Fund that invest in our funds, and so we have this commitment to invest in Europe, but we also have the national equivalent, national public bank, that will invest in our funds, but that will ask for a commitment, request a commitment to invest locally in Spain, this is done to nurture a bit and to create an ecosystem, a startup ecosystem, not just in healthcare, but it can be in tech, it can be in new energies and everything, or anything else. This is like very true for Europe, and it's less so the case for US-based funds. I guess they can invest where they want. Should it be in the US, or should it be in Europe, or in other territories?
Yeah, well, I think this is, you know, one of European investment fund, the local LPs like BPI France in France, CDP in Italy, KfW in Germany are pushing the money in order to develop internally their region from a healthcare perspective or any other particular sector. But, you know, VC in Europe are European, so they need to deploy the technology. So what will be the strategy for a Capricorn, for example, when investing in a medtech company? They came, you know, from Switzerland, you invest in them, and then what will be the next move forward?
I think for us it's very important that we get to know the entrepreneurs and sort of are in touch with them for you know, a good deal of time, multiple years before we invest. So we like expanding locally and making sure we know all of the initiatives going on in the Benelux area, for example, because we feel also that's sort of added value to partner VCs that we then later on co-invest with if we do larger rounds. And those partner VCs count on us in a certain sense for good quality work and financing the most promising startups. And I think that's also how we look at the other European VCs. If somebody comes to us from Italy, you know, it has a big value if somebody within our network, another VC from Italy, has invested in the company, a VC company that we trust and we have worked with before. So I think as an entrepreneur, I would be seeking out those VCs that have established those European networks, that have their co-investors that they're used to, because everybody's looking a little bit at each other to sort of make some screening and validating the quality of ventures that are happening a little further from home. But then the next big step, I think, for all of the European starters is we are all looking to, and the investments become bigger and bigger in medtech or digital health ventures. So the scale also must be bigger in a medium term. So everybody's looking at, starting up in Europe, maybe selecting, be very selective in terms of the European countries in where you want to commercialize and scale. But then very quickly in that plan, there must be some sort of an initiative to go to the US. And that is, I think, where we are struggling, or where we're trying to build also the relationships with US investors so that we can network, and when we get to bigger rounds to prepare for FDA clinical studies or prepare for rollout in the US, that we have also there that network of European VCs that can open up the US market. And I think that's sort of a constant in all of the files that we're looking at. We want somewhere down the road, and not too far down the road, see an opportunity to go to the US. I think in the past, we had more of a strategy of broadening in Europe, but more and more I think we're valuing business plans where we're very selective in terms of deploying in European countries, but then the US market comes in faster in the next set of priorities.
So, I don't know, can you make a few examples on companies that you have been investing in or supporting in that were able to raise money not only from the European VC ecosystem, but also from the American? And what was their request from the American VC in order to invest? It was a question of maturation of the company. It was a question of the market was opening up commercially in the States. So what was the main reason the VC from the States were convinced to invest in one of your companies, if any?
Yeah, the case that comes to mind is a company working in the surgical space and gathering data on preoperative, postoperative, clinical, operational metrics. And I think the technology and the AI science that was embedded and the data that they have processed was good, which was established in Europe. Large part of that was established also in Germany. And I think the US VC investor just saw the need in the US market, had been looking around at what sort of companies are experimenting with this type of technology, felt that the product and the concept was good, liked the management team, the ambition of the management team. The management team had already decided to move the thrust of their commercial efforts to the US, had established the first office there, and had expressed the willingness to sort of become a US company rather than a European company. And I think that last piece was actually pretty important for the US investors to decide, okay, we're not investing in a European company, it has a European prehistory, but it's at the verge of becoming a US company. And that opened up a lot of, I think, investor appeal in the US.
I shared the same knowledge. One of my portfolio company got American money, serious American money, and we moved the headquarters to the States. Even if we have 150 people working in Europe, we are building up the future for the company in the States. But the VC money was extremely interesting. First, because the market potential was huge in the States. Second, it is because there was also the possibility to be an American company, so which is on one side a little bit sad on our side, but at the end of the day, if you are bought by Medtronic, Boston, even if they're Irish, they are all American companies. So let's go back to we say that Europe is not a unified territory. So if you think about which one is the best nation to invest in on the medtech side, or in order to avoid that, because they oblige me to not put this, because otherwise Italy will win easily. What are the different characteristics of each different country that make sometimes appealing to invest in a medtech company in Italy or in France, etc.? Could be a question of VC, resources, grants, could be people, expertise, serial entrepreneur, pick your country, Germany, Belgium, Spain, France.
I'd like to take up the challenge because you said Italy is going to win. So
No, it's not.
no, now I have to start arguing. I mean, a successful medtech company is a lot of bits and pieces. There is, of course, at the beginning, there's the idea, the invention, the technology. I would throw in there, if you manage to navigate the German university system, and figure out where the good technology is. It's not easy, it's a federal state. There is a lot of technology, a lot of engineers, a lot of medical science. So yes, there are good teams where a medical person, maybe an economic person and an engineer, they all group up together, and that can be a very good nucleus. Of course, then the question is that enough? Probably not. If you're talking later, next steps, VC money, I already said, the big VCs are not really, there's one big German VC, so maybe you have to look there already. If you look at manufacture, yeah, can be done in Germany. If you look at regulatory, yes, you will find notified bodies, yes. If you look at reimbursement, maybe start somewhere else. Because
except in digital healthcare.
Except the digital.
Even.
But even that can be a challenge. And I mean, also then, if you really already look on how to go to the market, you may not forget the other countries. I mean, you can find, of course, Germany is a big country. You can find the KOLs, but do not forget these others. Otherwise, you're lost. I would say so. So maybe the science and the technology is a plus for Germany.
But sometimes, people, in particular, when a young startup comes to me and it's an early stage, I always say to them, go to France. Because France has Crédit Impôt Recherche, 50% of the money back the year after. It's amazing. And you have grants from BPI in all over the different sources. So then probably France, as soon as you pass that threshold, is not the right one. I don't know. So I don't know if Sylvain or Filip have a concept, or even Belgium is a good one for grants, for example.
Belgium,
yeah, I was thinking, I think in all of the countries you have access to finance. I think in all of the countries you have access to clinical people that want to pilot technology and new solutions. I think I see that across all of Europe. But every country, I think, in Europe has some specifics where they're extremely good at, and some history and critical mass that has been built up. If, for example, Belgium is a small country, but Belgium has been pretty strong in everything that was with biotech development, has been quite successful. And because of that, for example, you have a lot of people that have worked in the regulatory field, in the quality assurance field. And that's, okay, a good population, a good resource pool. If you're starting a medtech company, you typically need that sort of a capability. It's otherwise hard to find. And people coming from biotech are usually sort of more advanced and more sophisticated in these type of things. We have, in terms of the robotics field, for example, there is a training institute in Belgium where all of the current medtech robotics companies train their European physicians. There's a research arm connected to that training institute, so there's a deep expertise in robotics. You have IMEC as a research organization very much on nanoelectronics. Again, there you see medical devices companies starting using optoelectronic components, implantable devices, and so on. And so you have access to scientific knowledge, but also teams, labs for doing proto runs, for validating equipment, for testing equipment before you do in-human tests. There's a couple of academic hospitals that have deep expertise, for example, in heart surgery. There is a competency pool. So I would say if you are with the specific idea as an entrepreneur about the business that you want to create, I think in the competencies that matter and where you need some critical resources, there is centers of competence across Europe. And I think if you can tap into those and leverage those, I think that's very beneficial. I think artificial intelligence is an area in Belgium where the government is spending quite some money. You have some research teams in universities in Belgium that are top-notch in terms of all the international competitions for AI. So I think it's important to map out and to seek out where across Europe do I have these key competencies, because for the rest, I think finding clinical sites or finding financing is common and is possible everywhere.
Obviously, Spain and France are the best countries, but besides, I mean, I think traditionally, if you look at Europe,
they didn't hear you. You say Italy is the best country. What do you say?
So, but I mean, if you look at the country, I guess Galway in medtech, right? Galway and Ireland would be the historical hub in Europe. Still the case. There is a lot of talent, a talent pool. There is knowledge. There is a capacity to build, to produce, to do stuff, right? But now it's all very much decentralized. I think the innovation is not happening. So in biotech, you would take Boston in the US. In medtech, you would take Minneapolis, and you would have the two main, and San Francisco, and you would have the two main or three main hubs in the US. In Europe, I think it's much more spread across the territory. You have research groups in Belgium, in Spain, in Germany, in Italy, all across the country, not just in Rome or not just in Paris. You have different centers that can produce innovation. And at the end of the day, if they get finance, then they spend their money across Europe also, which is we could debate about the previous point, right? So we are financed by public money partly, so we need to spend this money locally. But then at the end of the day, those companies, they spend the money across Europe with CROs and with professional services, not just in Spain, but also in France and Italy and other countries. Bottom line, as long as you're financed, maybe first with a local VC, and then you scale up and you attract international monies, and your business will scale up. There is deal flow across Europe. I do believe so. There are opportunities across Europe. Look, in Spain, who would think that Barcelona would be a city, 15 years ago, who would think that Barcelona would be the city where neurostimulation using graphene is being developed? Nobody. And we are doing it right here at InBrain, and maybe they're here, but so we're doing it, we're financing it. At Asabys, we've been financing it with another venture group here from Barcelona, and now with venture groups from Germany. And who knows then? This is a business that will scale. We will need to get to the US. We will need to do regulatory in the US and in Europe. And we will need to attract money, not just from Europe, but from the US. So it can happen anywhere.
Understood. So the three of you have been talking about the talents, right? So the first piece, probably the easiest one in Europe, is the high technical. What about the rest? Meaning serial entrepreneur, clinical, regulatory kind of expertise. Do you find it easy to identify all over Europe, not necessarily out of Barcelona? Do you find it easily? Yes or no? Could be, you're obliged to grab somebody from United States to manage your company in Spain. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience? By the way, the major advantage in Europe compared to the United States, but since it's the subject of the future panel after this one, US versus Europe, talent in Europe is much, much cheaper, right? So you can do with less money what America can do with more money. I can mention, for example, a comment from one American investor who came to see one of my portfolio company in robotic, and he said, "Oh, you do all this with just 15 million? My company did exactly the same thing with 110. But because the cost of engineers, cost of all the services are associated to, et cetera, et cetera. So, but coming back to the talent, what's your point of view? Anke?
Yeah. I think the serial entrepreneurs are something still sought after, and even if only as a role model. That is really, really helpful to have someone. And at least for Germany, I would say yes, we are sort of getting the first generation of serial entrepreneurs, but you have to spend 10 years to become serial, to be successful first, and go for your second round. That is easier in some other countries, so there still is work to be done. I would not think that the solution really is to fly in a CEO from the US. He might not be very interested. You never know.
If you ask him to come to Frankfurt, probably not. If you ask him to come to
Italy,
to Florence, maybe.
it might work, but still he might have some issues because he doesn't speak Italian. So I don't know. But this is really something we still have to work on, and this means that we really have to look after our first generation of entrepreneurs when they are successful, and not to let them go somewhere.
What about the other important personalities or team members on top of the CEO? The CEO, successful entrepreneur, will be fantastic to have it again as a CEO of a company because he made the errors before, etc., etc. He won't make it, hopefully, in the second. But what about the other?
I think what the lack we feel every day, I think, is the lack in commercial people. Strong commercial people that are able to develop deals over a longer term with bigger medtech companies, with bigger pharma companies. I think we're very strong in all product technology-related functions, but the commercial functions are, I would say we always, in the portfolio companies, see that we hire those people too late. And that is really a shortage, I think. And in many cases, I think people are looking even to the US to bring over talent from the US for doing that. This is still something we have to, I think, organize better or develop people better. I don't know, in Germany, I always have the impression that in Germany, Switzerland, Austria, there's more of those profiles. But I'm not sure whether they make the jump to startups and growth companies. You have more established pharma companies, medtech companies, bigger, where you have the sort of commercial talent, but I don't see the commercial talent that easily go over to sort of more the growth companies.
And I think this is also often a step which is bigger than you think. When you come from an established company and all of a sudden you're sitting in a startup with the uncertainties and having to do everything yourself, that can be a bigger step than you think. And also what can happen is it's not so easy to step from a national role in a larger company to a commercial role in a medtech startup, which, at least as I say, has to go global. Because then you have other tasks. And I think it is a challenge, and I would agree, commercial people, sometimes the technical people evolve, sometimes not. And it's not so easy to find the right person in the first instance.
I mean, I guess, if you invest early stage, you tend to hire commercial people because you hope you won't need them, right? Yeah. You hope you will get to liquidity before needing those people. Another one, and it happens to us also, but another one is manufacturing, where typically you try to work with third parties. You try not to have your own manufacturing plan because it's a lot of investments, it's a lot of time to set up the manufacturing properly, to have it up and running, commercial scale. So you always try not to do that at least full scale, but sometimes it becomes necessary, and typically you do that too late. Mm-hmm. So that's another one. Regulatory would be another one, but typically also you work with external consultants. But to take the question maybe more generally, I think it's is there a scarcity of talent? I think it's on a case by case. I think some very hot areas or indications or technologies, yes, it's difficult to find people, and you need to be very competitive to attract them. So say somebody that would sit in Minneapolis, and to have that person living here in Barcelona, you really need to sit on something very unique and to be attractive for that person. In other cases, you can find local talent. and train them, or train them to the task. So I guess, I don't know, I'm in a company in a biopharma space, gene therapy, you need to explore outside. It's very hot, it's very competitive, so you really need to get out, and including in the US. We've hired a chief development officer in the US, traveling every month, spending 3 weeks per month, and doing it because it's attractive as an offer. But in other cases, yes, it's more.
You can try to have the weather in Barcelona as a nice way to. No, I was laughing before at the previous panel. The former founder of St. Jude say that the first time he went to Minneapolis, there were minus 30 degrees, 40 degrees. I don't remember exactly the number. So the first day when it was at Medtronic, minus 30. Well, I don't think a minus something is happening ever in Barcelona. So you may try, in particular with a successful entrepreneur, to let them come, discover Europe. I'm sure that could be useful. Let's talk about another subject. I don't know if you, around the different area in Europe, probably because of availability of cash from VC, from public money. Is there any difference, you believe, in Europe around valuation for a particular company at a particular stage? Is it Germany more expensive than Spain, than Belgium, than UK? What do you think? Or it's just a difference between Europe in general with the standard deviation compared to the United States?
It's difficult to answer this one. Honestly, I don't think there is much of a difference within Europe. There is a difference.
Under the standard dev.
Yeah, but there is a difference between entrepreneurs, right? So probably second-time entrepreneurs will negotiate a different valuation, and or between founding team, there is a difference. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you see that.
I would have said also that I don't see there's a lot of difference between countries in terms of valuation. And I think across Europe for the moment, with the current state of financing, I think everybody sort of
they want to see evaluation. Now they want to see at least evaluation. Yeah.
I think people sort of stick to the last valuation they've ever had, and there's not so much negotiation about the new valuation. But I don't see major differences across Europe now.
Okay. You might have the mentality sort of chiming in a bit, different negotiation styles that might happen.
Yeah.
And also, Italy is super expensive.
Absolutely. So let's go to another subject. I don't talk about charm. In the States, there are the major big guys, the strategy, the corporates acquiring a lot of company, right? The big one, the oldest one, and the brand new that has now 15 years probably, like Intuitive or Shockwave or whatsoever. So in Europe, we don't have, apart from a couple, I had in mind Philips, Siemens. I don't know if you know others. Right, probably in diagnostic, there are a bunch of Werner in Spain. We have DiaSorin in Italy. We had the Sorin, but it went to the States. So what do you believe is, how can we work proactively with these corporates in Europe in order to let them understand smartly that there is a way to create the next chapter of their life, of their company, technology, future, et cetera, et cetera? What needs to be done?
What I'm actually saying, or what we are actually saying, is that the smaller companies are pushing more to get a foothold on the innovation. The Philips, Fresenius, they might already look all over the globe. Some of them already have a team in China, a team in the US, and they might overlook some of the European countries. But I think what is clear is that there's a push from all European governments, nearly all, for innovation. There's a push from the medium-sized companies to sort of get into that. And there, of course, they do not have a lot of experience. So if we can sort of guide them a bit and see that they agree to standard terms where everyone else then, in the end, is happy with. I think that can be helpful. And of course, we need to understand also what their needs are.
I expect more from the pharma companies to get into health tech, especially digital health tech, digital therapeutics. And the pharma companies are much more have a much bigger habit at investing in startup companies and taking in innovation. So I expect, there have been a lot of investments going into digital healthcare. I expect more and more deals in that area, and maybe that also inspires the more traditional medtech companies to follow that path and follow that model.
Sylvain, make an example.
Yeah, no, I mean, we actually have so speaking about convergence, we actually have I was telling you about this neurostimulation company from Barcelona. We've actually signed a co-development and licensing deal with Merck, the pharma company. They have an interest, and they are building a new business unit that they call, I think, electroceuticals. So it's all about stimulation of nerves, and we have signed this collaboration deal for the development of a vagus nerve stimulation device from the very, very beginning. So there was only plans, and there was no data, there was nothing. Graphene, neurostimulation, vagus nerve. And let's see what we can do. It's true that it's something that we don't see much in the medtech, traditional medtech corporates. It's something that we see with pharma companies. We see a lot of convergence from pharma to digital, from pharma to medtech, from medtech to digital. Everything is sort of getting together. Medtech is obviously in our portfolio. If we take all the portfolios of the medtech, traditional medtech portfolio we have 5 companies. Only one has no software component whatsoever. It's a catheter company that doesn't have any software inside. One out of them, and I think it's pretty representative of what's going on. There is IT coming in, so maybe this is the recipe for early stage partnerships with corporates. Another one, and obviously in Europe, if you look at mid-size medtech, most of them are maybe more traditional, family-owned. They're not on the Nasdaq, whatever. So it's less aggressive as a BD from a BD perspective. So it takes maybe more time to get them on board. But I guess there is a pool of available capital that would be welcome in the ecosystem. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I think that we have an additional 5 minutes. So that there is another subject that came to our mind when preparing for this panel was related to reimbursement, right? So often the entrepreneur doesn't think at the beginning to get commercial, but these days and the strategic avoiding to buy company at the early stage push the entrepreneur to go commercial. So reimbursement, how do you find it in Europe, the reimbursement? Easy, complicated, the fact that country by country has its own difference make things complicated. What's your point of view of your startup today? I
mean, yes, it's complicated. It gives some unexpected opportunities as well. I think the Germany doing the DIGA experiment is something no one expected. On the other hand, the system of having to talk to 100 plus healthcare insurers is tedious. So there might be other countries where it's easier to start.
Yeah, I'm not sure there is one easy country. France is certainly not, but and Spain is actually 17 different countries when you from a pricing and reimbursement perspective, 17 different autonomous regions. So you need to negotiate with each of them so that you have CE mark and everything regulatory wise. It's all done. It's all good. But then to get reimbursed, you need to negotiate 17 times with 17 different offices. So that's also very tedious. And
However, you can have your test market.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
If you get one.
So, based on this, difficult, tedious, nice words.
What should we do? Right?
So what is your suggestion to your company that arrive to get the CE mark, to get to the FDA, and they need to demonstrate to an acquirer that there is an interest from the market for their particular technology? What is your suggestion?
Well, that's why, in general, we always prefer propositions where the people have found a way that they fit within existing reimbursement schemes. That makes it easier to commercialize, makes it easier to scale. And that can be that it fits then better in the Netherlands and the UK, for example. And then we prefer that people focus on 2 markets, show commercial traction, and don't try to cover as many markets as possible in Europe, because in many cases, 70% of the exits in health tech happen by a trade sale to a bigger medtech company, pharma company. They are better equipped usually to cover all of the complexities of the European markets and to scale broadly across Europe. They want to see commercial traction. They want to see that it proves to be easy to sell and sort of a safe efficacy, that the efficacy is there, and that the commercial model, the business model works. I think we prefer that companies demonstrate that on 2 or 3 European markets, and then see what sort of other avenues are opening up for investment.
Nothing much to add, but the only thing is about regulatory. So the traditional way of doing was to get CE mark, a few years of commercial traction in Germany, and then you switch to the US through FDA approval. It's changed a little bit, and I think it's the subject of the next roundtable, the next panel. But it's true that now the companies are considering FDA approval at the same time, at least, than CE mark. There is more complexity in CE mark, but the perspective is the same. I mean, you obviously don't try to gain traction as a small company in a country if it means 17 times negotiating with the payer. You try to get to a more centralized office or bureau.
At least you didn't say, like I was suspected, go to the US and do your own stuff, raise tons of money, because American commercial guys are a little expensive. So you didn't say that. I was expecting a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's probably coming. Yeah? If CE mark, if uncertainties around CE mark and MDR are not resolved in the coming, 2-3 years, and it's at some point it's going to come, because you will have FDA approval before getting CE mark. So what do you do then? Okay. When knowing that your market is the American market, then you try commercial traction in the US, maybe localized, and a few centers, and you show that you have commercial traction in a very smart way.
Sylvain, this is a fantastic way to introduce the next panel, which is about Europe and US, difference, FDA, CE mark, etc., etc. So I hope you enjoy the European joke, laughing. So I hope that don't hesitate to contact us through the platform or through email, whatsoever. Happy to discuss further. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.